Tell us a little bit about Ostia and why you're going there.
Well, it's a national park. It's an Italian national park, and it's an archaeological site, major archaeological site. Ostia was the port city of Rome. So anyone who was visiting Rome, like St. Paul, he had to come in through
Mm.
the harbor at Ostia. It was an artificial harbor that was dredged out twice a year by slave labor. Well, once
Mm.
slave labor moved away from Rome after Rome had become vulnerable and breached eventually, the harbor filled in. And eventually the town kind of silted over because it fell into disuse.
Mm.
It became a ghost town and it just silted over. So in the last 100 years or so, they've been digging this out of the muck, this town. And what's amazing is how different it is from everything else you're going to see when you visit
Mm.
Rome. The
Mm.
Colosseum is striking. It's this first century artifact, really, this gigantic artifact that's in the middle of a modern metropolitan intersection,
Yeah.
right?
The buses are driving by. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and vendors outside, all these guys, who want you to take your picture with them in costume, but Ostia Antica is a national park. It's preserved, and the buildings are intact uh, as they were at the time. So you see the baths, you see the amphitheater, you see the Christian basilica, you see the cemetery, you see the fish market, you walk into a tavern, all of these
Yeah.
things, and you see those places as they were in the 4th or 5th century because it's a ghost town. And these have
Yeah.
remained intact because they silted over.
Yeah.
Ostia is also the site of some of the great works of the Church Fathers. Uh, uh, Minucius Felix's work Octavius is set entirely in that resort town, that harbor town of Ostia, and and um, and one of the greatest works in antiquity is Saint Augustine's Confessions, and the greatest scene in Augustine's Confessions takes place in Ostia, in what's now Ostia Antica, ancient
Yeah.
Ostia. So there is the death of Augustine's mother and their last conversation, and it's this mystical event, really.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to a typical house in Ostia where they would have been staying. We read that passage from the Confessions there, and then we do what Augustine did after his mother died. He was grieving, and he was depressed, and he walked to the baths. Well, we can walk to the baths
Wow.
from the houses, and then we can go to the basilica where his mother's funeral was, and usually we offer mass there. We have mass in the ruins of the ancient basilica where this would have happened, where this would have taken place, and we'll have confessions, and we'll continue to read from his book while we're there. Ostia is just such an immersion. That's another one of the places my children loved when I was taking them there. Now, when those kids who are all grown up, when they go back to Rome, they will set aside an entire day
Mm.
just to walk in the ruins at Ostia. So people just fall in love with the place because it's so different from the experience in the city. This is another one of those experiences of going back in time and really firing up your imagination,
Yeah.
because you get to see these buildings and these sites as they were in the 4th century, the 5th century, when the church fathers were there and when they were recording these events.
Yeah. To remember that this isn't just a story. Like Augustine's Confessions, like when you reenact it, you
Yeah,
reenact this walk, you remember, oh, this really happened and these were real people.
yeah,
And I loved Ostia. Some people said, oh, it's like Pompeii without the volcano. But
and without the crowds,
that's the thing. I felt it was very different because it was peaceful
it's
and
quiet.
there were no crowds, and you could really, it made actually entering into the moment even easier because you could, yeah, you didn't deal with the tourists and it was yours in a
Yeah,
sense when you were there, and I
I have
loved it.
never been there when there was any kind of significant crowd.
Yeah.
It's just a quiet, peaceful place, and of course, Saint Monica was there, and she died there. And quite recently, they found her tombstone, quite by accident,
Wow.
and so the tombstone is in a chapel in the cathedral just across the street. So we'll visit
Wow.
all these places.